hadn't really done it in your time. So he brought in players without a history in the program of losing, guys who had won where they were and had a history of winning themselves. And it just kind of really created that kind of chemistry in the locker room to where there was belief. And then when they got off to a good start to the season, that just kept building and building every single week until now we're sitting here. It's the first college football playoff game of this 12-team era, and the freaking Indiana Hoosiers are playing in the game. Nobody would have seen that coming before the year began.
You know what fan base is like? Winners. We want winners. Mike Singletary, we want winners. What stands out to you about this Hoosiers team?
Well, Tom touched on it. They are winners. I used to recruit a lot in that Western PA area back in Indiana, Pennsylvania, IUP. Shout out to Latrobe. Shout out to Blairsville. I used to be out there a lot. And Kirk Cignetti used to win a ton out there at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Then he went to Elon, did a great job there. You know, I covered the FCS a lot. Saw him down at James Madison. So I'm not surprised that he hit the ground running because he knows how to recruit. He knows how to call plays. And you saw in those clips, teams and players and fans and alum and boosters love the energy. Everywhere he has gone, he has left the place better than when he got there, and he's also bringing a lot more juice to the table as well, and you needed that in a program like Indiana. It's almost no different than when Greg Schiano went to Rutgers and quickly turned that program around, went from laughingstock doormat to playing for the Big East title, right? Remember that ball game? That's what Indiana has in Kirk Cignetti, so I'm excited to see him tonight and moving forward.
I just love how cocky he is. Because, and some would say, oh, he's too cocky. I love his confidence. Google me, I win. And I love that he has backed that up. Like, he was even campaigning for a home playoff game in this whole entire conversation. And he was rightfully right. He was right about it. I mean, you could have argued that they deserved a home playoff game. They didn't get one. And this game is going to be incredible in South Bend. They're separated by 200-some miles. One of the key matchups to watch will be Notre Dame's secondary against deep balls thrown 20-plus yards down the field. Notre Dame has given up just one passing touchdown on a ball thrown 20-plus yards downfield. That's best in FBS. Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke completing nearly 48% of his deep ball attempts. Emory, this is strength on strength.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Curtis Rourke is the #1 CFL quarterback prospect in the upcoming 2025 CFL draft. And the reason why we see these numbers are what they are for Notre Dame is because of their ability to get pressure. And that frustrates you in the pocket. You don't have time to get the ball deep down the field. But when you do have Xavier Watts as a safety, Adon Schuler as a safety. That's 8 interceptions combined. Leonard Moore, Christian Gray stepping up at corner, 4 interceptions combined and 16 pass breakups. So they can match up with Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper, Miles Price, Keyshawn Williams. That's a quartet of wide receivers. So it is strength on strength. It's body versus body. And we're going to get a great matchup tonight in the passing game because of what we just laid out here between Indiana and Notre Dame. And oh, by the way, that Indiana offensive line does a good job in pass pro.
Tom, how are you evaluating this particular matchup?
I mean, I do think that this is a very interesting matchup. And when we talk about Notre Dame's passing defense, there's no denying that it's been one of the best passing defenses in the country. The other side of that coin is what's the best passing offense that Notre Dame has faced. If you go up and down their schedule, there's been a lot of option teams on it. There's been your Navies, there's been your Armies, there's been a Northern Illinois team that it lost to that was not exactly prolific through the air, Georgia Tech. They haven't really faced anything like this Indiana team with a quarterback as good vertically in the air as Curtis Rourke has been, with these big receivers that the Hoosiers have who can, just body you out of the way on these deep balls, jump up and take them and get, to keep the ball away from you. So it's going to be interesting to see how Notre Dame's secondary fares against these guys. But the one concern I have is that we've seen this Indiana team play 2 really good defenses this year, the Michigan Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes. It also happens to be the 2 worst games that the Indiana offense has played all season long. And you look at this Notre Dame defense, the secondary's great. The linebackers are great. The defensive line is great. There really is not a weakness, or at least we haven't found one to this point. So if the Indiana offensive line struggles the same way that it did in that Michigan game and that Ohio State game, that could take away their run game. That could force them to play a bit one-handed, which will only make it easier for Notre Dame to defend them and try to take that passing attack away. So I think it is critical that even though Indiana is best at throwing the ball down the field and it's their strength, they need to establish some kind of ground game tonight just to make the Notre Dame Dame defense take them seriously on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Curtis Rourke was ineffective against the Buckeyes, sacked 5 times. Got to keep him upright tonight against a stout Notre Dame defense. The Fighting Irish playing in front of their faithful fans tonight as the 7 seed. 2 games into this season, they did not look like a playoff team. September 7th, Notre Dame Stadium played host to one of the most shocking upsets in school history, a 16-14 loss to Northern Illinois. Are you kidding me? No conference championship game to lean on. The mission became clear. Win out to get into the playoff, and that's exactly what Notre Dame did. The Irish rattled off 10 straight wins, including dominant performances over previously unbeaten Army and Navy. The offense stifled by NIU in week 2, averaging 44 points per game during this win streak. The defense ball hawking, 28 takeaways, tied for the most in the nation. The only question left to answer, will the regular season success translate to the playoff? All right, back here with Emery and Tom, and after that loss to NIU, quarterback Riley Leonard was so embarrassed he asked a police officer for a ride home. Next day, he met with Marcus Freeman, took the blame for the loss. Coach Freeman said, "You're going to be thankful for this." At the time, Riley Leonard was like, "What? What do you mean thankful?" Well, sometimes hard L's harden you. You absorb your losses. How do you think that moment, Emery, between coach and quarterback provided a spark rest of way?
It was very much Tim Tebow-like, right? We're not going to lose again. That won't happen again, except it happened in private, and instead of out in front of the cameras for everybody to see. It became a viral soundbite. But that's something that you want to see from your starting quarterback. I like that he took that loss personally, and we saw him manifest that energy into productive play down the stretch because he has become an asset and not a liability. We watched that game against Texas A&M and said, man, if Texas A&M had a passing game, they would have beat Notre Dame because Notre Dame really couldn't throw the football. We are not now saying that about the passing game. Even though it's not 400 yards a game or 300 yards a game, he's more efficient. He's decisive when he's throwing the football, and he's been protecting the football in conjunction with his ability to run. So we're seeing the best of Riley Leonard. I like that he took the loss personally and turned the season around for Notre Dame.
Tom, Notre Dame's defense has 28 takeaways, most in FBS. This is not a defense you want to face right now. It's nasty.
No, they are phenomenal at all levels. And the one thing that's more important to me, too, like we talk about turnovers, turnover margin. You mentioned it. They've got more takeaways than any defense in the country. But it's what their offense does with those takeaways afterward. They lead the nation in points off turnovers per game at plus 775 compared to their opponent, which is obviously anytime you're getting more than a touchdown per game as far as points off of turnovers compared to your opponent, you're going to win most of the games that you're playing. And that is what they have been doing all season long. And they also we saw the defense sometimes doesn't even need the offense to get the points for them. In that USC game, they had the 2 pick sixes late to really put that one to bed and, finish that game and solidify their spot in the college football playoff. This has been a tremendous defense. There really is not a weakness. They have the excellent pass rush. They can take away the run game. Their linebackers are excellent tacklers. They can also drop back in coverage. And the secondary has been phenomenal all season long. It is going to be a very difficult task for this Indiana offense tonight.
Another key matchup to watch is Indiana's defense against Notre Dame's run game. The Hoosiers allowing less than 71 yards per game this season, best by any FBS team, not only this season, but since 2022. Riley Leonard has 14 rushing touchdowns this season. He got better throwing the football as the season went on. He had multiple touchdown passes in his last 3 games. Jeremiah Love leads the backfield with a rushing touchdown in 12 straight games. They got Jadarian Price back there as well. Emery, how are you evaluating this critical matchup?
Well, listen, this is what I'm looking forward to seeing because it involves a point of attack play. Back in the day when Notre Dame was in their heyday, we had the killer bees, Lee Becton, Jerome Bettis, Reggie Brooks, and also Jeff Burris. But now we got, the Joyous Jays. You talked about Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I love how they're running the football, and they are looking like those guys that we grew up watching run that rock for Notre Dame. And because they are explosive, that's where it's going to require Indiana to be much more disciplined in terms of their run fits and how they are aggressive in getting off blocks because these guys don't need much to make things happen. There's a little sliver of grass, they can find it, and they can hit the home run. So Indiana has to be consistently disciplined in their run fits and their ability to make tackles, not just one-on-one, but gang tackling these 2 backs.
Yeah, I am smitten by Jeremiah Love as a running back. Like I know that Ashton Genty has been the best running back in the country this season, But as far as like potential NFL future, I think I'm actually higher on Jeremiah Love going forward. So this is going to be an interesting task for the Indiana defense. But I do think that this is a good matchup for the Hoosiers, because the one area of their defense that I've always been a little suspect of this season is in the secondary. But you look at the matchup with this Notre Dame offense, they're not really a team that is going to try to beat you with the passing game, because they are so solid at running the ball that I think going up against this Indiana defensive front, they match up well with what Notre Dame tries to do on offense. So it should give them a chance to be in this game. And that's why I have more faith in the Hoosiers defense keeping this game close and giving them a chance tonight than I do their offense. But I do think that forcing a few turnovers would certainly help.
Who's your daddy? All right, so how about the weather for tonight's game? Snow on the ground this morning in South Bend. Tonight, temperatures in the 20s. A few flurries are possible. It's December football. The field has been cleared since this morning, so it's dry on the field right now, as you see. And look, it's going to be cold December football. So that's what we expect tonight. How's it going to impact the game? All right, back here with Emery and Tom. And Tom, I know that you are a fan of weather. A lot of the talk on the Cover 3 podcast revolves around weather when you're making wagers, and we'll get to that later on here. But how do you think the weather tonight might impact this game?
Well, you know, first of all, I'm going to have the windows open in solidarity with the players on the field tonight. I want to feel the elements that they are going to be playing in. But I think, honestly, when it comes to dealing with the cold and playing football in the cold, there are two truths to it. First of all, it sucks tackling, because if you really feel it when you hit a guy in this cold weather, whether you're the one being hit or you're the one delivering the hit, it hurts just a little bit more. Thankfully, the cold helps with the swelling. But I think mentally is the bigger challenge for both teams, which is why I think it's very important for both of these teams to get off to good starts, because they're both from Indiana. The cold weather is nothing new to them, even though they aren't typically playing football this late into the season in the weather that they're playing in tonight. But if you get down early and you're sitting on that sideline and it's 20 degrees and you're really cold, you're not really all that excited to go back out there. You kind of just want the experience to end. So I think it's critical for both teams to get off to a really quick start, or just mentally, you might check out.
Tom and I are from the Midwest, so we know what it's like to play sports in cold weather. I remember playing baseball in 40-degree weather, and there's snow. So how do you hit a baseball and there's snow falling down from the sky? I don't know. I think I went probably 0 for 4. But I wore my cold gear. You play football in the South. You're not getting this kind of cold weather. What was the coldest game you ever played in? Because you traveled as well. You did recruiting as well. What was the coldest game you ever played in? How'd you deal with those temperatures?
I will say this. It was during my freshman year, so I was redshirting. We played Washington State up at Pullman.
Oh, wow.
It was like 20-something degrees. I remember being on the side, and I sneezed. I swear I shattered my entire infrastructure. I had never been outside in that type of weather, right? And then the following year, we played Idaho in the Kibbe Dome. And so the hotel was in Moscow, Idaho, and we're outside. It's snowing outside, and we're all in the lobby like, are they going to cancel the game? Like, not realizing you play in the snow even though we're indoors.
Right.
Like, we had never seen snow, man. It was just bizarre to see snow, and then also the previous year see all that cold weather.
What's the piece of advice for playing in cold weather?
Stay in packs. If you see guys on, but they're from Indiana, man. They know this. Like, but the southern thing to do is like stay in. But when you see packs of players on the sideline, like that's telling you it's cold outside. Or if you just watch Lamar Jackson on Sunday, no matter where he's at, he's always gonna have that coat on and that hoodie on, that Scully. He's on the sideline.
I feel like there's something to be said about adrenaline too. Like, I'm not playing this game, but I'm pumped up. Like, I can't wait to see this game. I know I'm inside, but when I'm saying when you're outside and you're excited for an event, I don't care if you're going sled riding, skiing, or something. There's just something about you get going, you get riled up. That's what you do, and that's what we're here to do. We're going to continue the conversation. Coming up, we've got 3 more first-round games on Saturday. Who's on upset alert? That's next on Game Day Scoreboard. Keep it locked. We've got 3 first-round playoff games on Saturday, starting with Penn State hosting SMU. The 12-5 matchup takes us to Texas, where the Longhorns are double-digit favorites over Clemson. Nightcap in Columbus, where temperatures are expected to be in the 20s. As for the forecast in State College, here's CBS News meteorologist Ray Petlin.
I'm meteorologist Ray Petlin. The high noon matchup between SMU and Penn State is going to come with low temperatures, only 26 at game time. We could see some peaks of sunshine, but that is not going to warm you up. We do have some snow off to the west, maybe a couple flakes try to get close to State College, but I think it's going to be more clouds with that little mixture of sunshine hanging with us for a good chunk of the day. The big story, it's going to be cold and breezy, so even though those temperatures are going to touch into the 20s, it's going to feel like the teens throughout the course of the game. You can see up front, we see a couple peaks of sunshine. I think the clouds are going to be winning out as we continue to go through the game. Temperatures, they'll actually fall by just a degree to 25 by the time things are over.
All right, back here with Emery Hunt and Tom Fornelli. It's going to be cold in State College and Columbus, and sunny and 60 in Austin. I don't really agree with the scheduling. I would have played the 12-5 matchup at noon. Give me Penn State at 3:30 or whatever, that 4 o'clock window, so at least we have some night at Happy Valley. I don't know why we're not playing a night game at Happy Valley. That's sort of a requirement for college football fans. I don't know if they get us, if they're one of us, or they're just not. Whatever the factor, it doesn't really matter at this point because we're playing when we're playing. Tom, when you look at the weather and you look at the home field advantage factor, because some of the home field advantage is being controlled by the CFP, some by the school, the PA, the music, that's all done by the school, the hype videos. If you want to have a hype video and you're a visitor, if you're Tennessee coming into Columbus, you can have a hype video. So how much of all is this going to play a factor, Tom?
I think if I'm looking at a real factor, I feel like it's the fact that Ohio State Athletic Director Ross Bjork was going everywhere this weekend and publicly saying, please, if you're an Ohio State fan, don't sell your ticket to a Tennessee fan, please. Just we need to pack the stadium with our own. I think if there's more Tennessee fans in the crowd, that'll have a bigger impact than whether there's a hype video or maybe the ribbon board turns orange for a second. But I mean, this is the way it is at NCAA events in every postseason. Even when it's a home field, it's still supposed to be somewhat of a neutral, approach as far as the game production goes. But more than anything, I still think there is a serious home field advantage because of the weather and just because you're waking up in your own bed. You're in your own stadium, in your own locker room, and you will be playing in front of your own fans for the most part. So when there is the noise being made by the crowd, it will be when, you want them to be making noise. When the other team's on the field trying to get their signals in and they can't hear what's going on because there are 100,000 people screaming at them. So I do think the home field advantage won't be that impacted too much by the, NCAA kind of just messing with things a little bit to make it a little more fair. But I do wish, they would just let it be a traditional home game. It is one of those things. It's like you made the right decision of putting these games on campus. Treat them as if they're just campus home games.
I agree, because at the end of the day, man, the better team has the advantage because they are the better team. I will say, though, the most intriguing home field advantage, to your point, Tom, will be in Columbus because the first incomplete pass from Ohio State, it will be raining boos coming from the Buckeye fans. They have little room, if not any room for error against Tennessee. And because Tennessee and Tennessee fans have been telling us all week long, it gets cold in the mountains. Yes, you're absolutely right. But this is a different level of cold. But also Tennessee is built a lot like Ohio State. So they're going to match physicality. So if things are tight early, it's going to be dead quiet on at least one side of that stadium out there in Columbus.
Yeah, I still think it's criminal that the Penn State game's not at night. I'm a stickler for that.
He's stuck on that.
I don't really get that. All right, aside from feeling the cold, James Franklin and Ryan Day feeling the pressure as well. James Franklin has struggled to win the big game, 4-14 in his career in top 15 matchups. Ryan Day 1-3 in CFP games. More glaring for me as an Ohio State fan, 1-4 against Michigan. The last time we saw Day and the Buckeyes, they lost to Michigan. There was flag planting. The Ohio lawmaker wanted to make it a law and a felony if you plant a flag. They've by the way, that bill is dead. Just want to make the breaking news there for you, Tom. That is not an official law yet. Don't make it an official law because that's soft. If they don't win, fans might be asking for a change. So I'm sitting here as a Penn State fan. I'm sitting here as an Ohio State fan, Emery. Do you think both of their jobs are safe?
Yes, and here's why. It's just for the vibes in terms of Ryan Day. I know I'm joking about the first incomplete pass, but the pressure is definitely real on him because he hadn't beaten Michigan. And so that's going to hang over his head. He's going to have to get better in the offseason, find ways to beat Michigan. But for Franklin, I feel like Penn State fans have a little bit more realistic output. Now that we have a 12-team playoff, you can expect Penn State to be in the postseason every year. So I feel like his job is safer than Ryan Day's, but I do feel that both guys are safe in their role because I hate to use the saying, who else is out there? There's great coaches out there regardless.
There are.
But at the end of the day, I do like that both guys understand the program and are willing to work through the issues. And fans and alums and boosters, yes, you may toss a little money around Hakeem, but you got to be patient, bro. Let those guys do their jobs.
You agree with that, Tom?
I think that even if I think if Penn State loses, James Franklin is safe. I don't think Penn State has any desire to move on. I don't think they have any need to move on. I don't agree about Ryan Day. I don't think that it's logical. I don't think it makes any real sense from an outside of Columbus perspective. But just based on the vibes around that program and how the fans feel, like this is sports. Sports have existed for thousands of years. If we go back 2,000 some odd years to the Roman days of the gladiators, when did the gladiators go down? When the crowd turned on them. The crowd is very much turning on Ryan Day in Columbus. And if the Buckeyes go into this game at home and lose to Tennessee, that crowd is going to turn even further. And while Ross Bjork has publicly stated that Ryan Day will be back next year, he might be forced to change his mind on that. And there's also another side of this coin. Maybe Ryan Day leaves of his own volition. Maybe Ryan Day doesn't want to deal with this anymore, where he could be as successful as he has been at Ohio State, and the fans still want to get rid of him. Maybe he'll, grant their wish and say, okay, I'll go win games somewhere else. Good luck finding somebody who can do what I've done here.
It's the beard. I think that's why people want him gone. Like it's
no. It's 1-4 record against Michigan. Okay, look, I'm going to tell you right now, if he doesn't win the national championship this playoff, if they don't win the national championship, if they don't get to the national championship, I'm telling you right now, they are calling for his job.
Eddie George out there.
They're calling.
Shout out Tennessee State.
James Franklin's buyout is much larger at $64 million. Ryan Day's buyout is $37 million. Ohio State is 7.5-point favorite against Tennessee. Penn State an 8.5-point favorite against SMU. Texas a double-digit favorite against Clemson. And the underdog with perhaps the most bite is the Tigers. There's no question about this. The spread in that game is 12.5. And Tom, you wrote on CBSSports.com that Texas has a Quinn Ewers problem. Okay, tell us about this.
Yeah, I think that, early in the season, Quinn Ewers was playing very, very well. He was healthy. Then he suffered that oblique injury that kept him out for a few games, and he's come back, and you could tell he's never really fully recovered from it because the only thing that recovers from an oblique injury is time and rest. So he didn't have nearly enough of that to recover fully. Then he adds an ankle injury on top of it, and we have seen since all of this happened, their offense has really struggled finishing drives in the red zone because Quinn is not able to put the kind of zip on balls that you need when the windows get tighter and the field gets shorter. So we're seeing them throw a lot of screens and bubble screens. We're seeing them throw a lot of, fades, rainbow fades to the back corner of the end zone, and they're just not working. And their run game has been a problem all season long. So Quinn Ewers being unable to throw the ball certainly isn't helping, and not having a run game in the red zone certainly isn't helping. And it also doesn't help when your kicker misses the field goals that you're forced to attempt because you can't finish the drives. We have seen this happen time and time again, and it is not a new problem. It was a problem that Texas was facing last year. So I do think that in this matchup and in the college football playoff in general, if Texas wants to entertain the idea of winning 4 games to win a national title, we need to see more Arch Manning, particularly in the red zone where his legs at least provide a threat, which makes the defense play 11 on 11, maybe gets the linebackers to freeze for that fraction of a second to open up a lane for Quintrevian Wisner to find running room to score touchdowns and finish drives. I think that we need to see that if we are Texas to give ourselves a chance. I don't care about the narratives or any of the kind of controversy of, oh no, now is Arch Manning going to be the starter or is Quinn going to be the starter? Who cares? Once the game starts, put the guys out there that you feel like will give you the best chance to win. And I think bringing in Arch in the red zone will give Texas its best chance of winning.
Tom, I am right there with you, lockstep in everything you said. I'll just add some seasoning on the side for it. When you think about this whole scenario, it reminds me so much of Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Alex Smith was winning games, but Colin Kaepernick had a little bit something extra that gave the offense a little bit more juice. This is the same type of situation. Arch Manning has game experience now. He played in those games when Quinn Ewers was out, but we know his legs are a big part of his game, and it opens up everything offensively. And you still have the element of the unknown. I thought they should have gone to him against Georgia, throw him in there inside the red zone. We thought that was going to be the game plan because every team that had a mobile quarterback versus Georgia had success. And Texas stuck with Quinn Ewers, but we saw the limitations. And in this ball game, I do feel like we'll see on the other side, Clemson's athletic quarterback, Cade Klubnik, give them problems.
Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers grew up as friends, now going to be foes here in this game. Clemson seeking the largest upset in college football playoff history. Double-digit favorites, get this, are 8-0 straight up in CFP history. And Clemson has been here before, making their 7th CFP appearance, second most behind only Alabama. The Tigers have won 2 national titles during this stretch, both against the Crimson Tide. Clemson chasing another, looking to be a bracket buster. Getting closer and closer to kickoff in South Bend. Coming up, how to wager on the matchup. Indiana against Notre Dame. Our experts deliver their best bets. This is Game Day Scoreboard. Time to punch some last-minute tickets. And the last time Curtis Rourke took the field, he was punching some tickets. Hoosiers regular season finale, a 66 rout at Purdue. Rourke had nearly as many passing touchdowns, 6, as incompletions, 8. His 6 touchdowns tied the school record for a single game. All right, here's a look at the prop numbers for Rourke and Riley Leonard tonight, courtesy of FanDuel. You can also wager live as well, get some bonus value. You'll get plus money for either quarterback to throw multiple touchdown passes. Leonard favored to hit pay dirt on the ground, minus 125 odds for a rushing touchdown. His 14 rushing touchdowns tied for the most by a Notre Dame quarterback in a season since 1940. All right, back with Emory Hunt, Tom Fornelli. Emory, give me your tippy-top player prop.
We saw a USC passing game have some success outside of throwing pick sixes, but they were able to move the football. I do think Rourke gets 2 touchdowns tonight against this Irish secondary.
All right, Tom, what do you got? Prop.
I think Indiana, if you go back this year, they struggled to run the ball against Michigan. They struggled to run the ball against Ohio State. I think they struggled to run the ball here a bit tonight. Give me Justice Ellison, under 53.5 yards rushing.
All right, let's pick a side. Notre Dame, a 6.5-point favorite. The spread came down over the last 24 hours. It was 7.5. Notre Dame has covered 8 straight games. That's the longest active streak in FBS. Tom, the trend, is it our friend?
Oh, it's going to be 9 after tonight. I love Indiana. I love the story. I love that they got this far and they're in this game. But I just don't think they're good enough to take down the Irish. I think at home with all that talent on their roster, Notre Dame wins. It's not a blowout, but they cover.
I agree, Tom. I'm going with Notre Dame. I think this one will look a lot better than the Ohio State game, more so like the Michigan game, except the roles reverse. Notre Dame wins a tight one, but definitely covers the spread.
All right, so you only have to lay 6.5 there for Notre Dame. Both of our experts like the Fighting Irish in this one. All right, Let's attack the total. Notre Dame, by the way, covering the spread by more than 14 points per game during their 10-game winning streak. The total's also come down, now sitting at 50.5. 68% of the money on the under. Emery, are you here? Are you rolling with the public?
69% nice is on the under because I'm going with the under as well. I think we'll see a defensive slugfest until the fourth quarter, but I like the under.
I'm going slightly in the opposite direction here. I mentioned earlier on the show, in this cold weather, you want to make sure you can get off to a quick start or a hot start to make sure you keep yourself in the game and get that adrenaline going. Give me Notre Dame over 14.5 points in the first half. I think that we're going to see some successful run plays and maybe even a few passing plays you didn't see coming in the early possessions.
Tom Fornelli, Emery Hunt, pregame here. Indiana and Notre Dame about to kick it off. We'll be back at halftime with an update. We'll have some analysis and we'll have some halftime wagers as well. Men, enjoy the game. The college football playoff has begun. Coming up, a chief concern. Patrick Mahomes starting on Saturday despite a high ankle sprain as the Kansas City Chiefs chase the #1 seed in the AFC. Next on Game Day Scoreboard.